One's ready. Go! So you guys are going into special warfare assessment selection. It is an attributes-based selection model. What does that mean?
Guys, are we running right now to get fitter? Are we practicing running? Practicing.
I can't freaking...
So there's a holistic picture that we're looking for. The instructors are giving you input, and we're expecting an output. And everything is for a reason. If you guys haven't heard my spiel yet, everything that we do, every single exercise, has a connection to the job that you're trying to do. We don't want people at INDOC, Special Warfare Assessment Selection, whatever they're gonna call the new course when it inevitably changes somewhere down the road. I don't care what they call it. What I need is you to show me the raw materials for the things that I wanna build you into. Just like everything else, it's a crawl, walk, run.
I can run a keystone just like this. All the way to ATC, you never quit. All the way to ATC, you never quit.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ones Ready podcast. Aaron and Trent here today. This is not going to be a fun episode. So a little bit of background. There are people that we have as guests on this podcast that I'll probably never speak to again, not because they're not great people, just because they're just not going to be like lifelong friends. You know what I mean? Nate and Kate Gladdin fall into the other category of people we've met through this project and friends of friends that become lifelong friends. And if you want to go back and listen to their episodes, we've had Nate on, right? A couple times, way back.
Yeah.
And we've had Kate on. And if you remember Kate's story, it's a pretty wild story. She was a teenager when her sister from Australia, she's Australian, went on vacation to another country and was killed in a motor vehicle incident. And this, spawned a lot of the things that Kate did later on in life. She's a fantastic human. I don't know why she married Nate, but she found like one of the world's greatest, dudes. And, she wrote a book, at least one book, a couple books. She helps teenagers out, all these great things, right? That kind of came from this trauma from her childhood. And she's trying to make people aware of it. Well, fast forward to their idyllic retirement that Nate had. Nate retired from the Air Force. They moved to Sheridan, Wyoming, which if you've seen pictures of that place, it's very pretty. They're having a great life out there. Kate's mom comes to visit from Australia, and she is hit by a car and killed. And so that's kind of where we find ourselves now, which this would just be a tragedy if it wasn't for some of the other things that are happening around this incident. So some of the things we're going to talk about today is the prosecuting attorney. And I think this is going to be like more of one of those like, hey, we're going to give you a chance before we blow you all the way up to try to do the right thing. But my hope is that the prosecuting attorney actually, we can get some pressure on her to do the right thing and to not let this guy plea out to almost nothing. And we'll tell you about the dude that hit Kate's mom and why he should not have even been driving or existing in the free world up to this point, and how giving people second, third, eight chances and allowing them to just live free amongst us is not always the best idea. And moving forward, I think we're gonna have Kate and Nate on here, so I don't want to steal any of their thunder or anything like that, or over explain everything, but just wanted to put it out there, put some information out there for people, kind of activate the network, so to speak, and see if we can put some heat on these people to do the right thing, put this dude away, and we're seeking justice. We're not seeking revenge, and I think that's where we're going to end up at the end of this episode. Aaron,
do you guys see how measured Trent was? Do you see how he just kind of like laid it out and he gave a good intent and he gave a good? I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be the guy that says the really harsh thing about the people involved in this because it makes me absolutely freaking livid. This guy shouldn't be on the streets. We've got everything, this gentleman, everybody makes mistakes, right? But you have to own your mistakes, and then you have to be held accountable for those mistakes later. So, when you sexually abuse a minor earlier in your lifetime, you pretty much cross a red line with me. And at that point, you shouldn't be here on this earth. That's a personal opinion. That's my line, right? So we're going to talk about the guy that did the thing, and then we're going to talk about the system that's protecting him, which is even a little bit more angering to me because you guys know me. You see me on the different platforms. You guys understand that I think sunlight is the best disinfectant in all things. I think that every single one of these public servants, right? Because that's what they are. Public servants, we should know everything about them. And pursuant to the First Amendment and a couple of the others, we should be able to address grievances with those folks. And there are some people acting out in Sheridan right now, way outside of pocket, way outside of pocket. What they're doing makes no sense. And unfortunately, and this is the reason that we're doing this episode, is you can't hurt our friends. Nate and Kate are our friends. Like, I've never met Kate in person, but she's an awesome chick. And so is Nate. And we've maintained a relationship. The internet's weird, right? Like, remember back when you were a kid, your mom told you never talk to strangers on the internet and don't get anybody's car that you don't know. And now we have Uber, and you literally call a stranger to get into their car. Like, times have just changed. You maintain these fully formed relationships via the internet, and you share memes with one another, and you share good things and bad things with one another. And if you can't help those friends, it doesn't matter how you made the friends. You know, my spouse refers to them as fake friends. Like, I've never met these fake internet friends. And then every once in a while she'll be like, oh wow, that's an internet friend that you met, and now you guys are like super good friends. It's just the way of the world. And unfortunately, this situation, it makes me really mad. So we're going to share the initial news report of this event from the Sheridan Free Press here. This came out on July 2nd. So the man who allegedly hit and killed a woman May 28th pleaded not guilty to vehicular homicide failure to yield during his arraignment, 4th Judicial Court Tuesday. Both charges are misdemeanor citations. How is vehicular homicide a misdemeanor citation?
Well, so Wyoming has weird laws about this. So if it's just a vehicular homicide and it's not aggravated, it is a misdemeanor. And I think it's like a $2,000 fine and up to 100 some days in jail or something, which they're not even going for, by the way, to get ahead of ourselves. But that is one of my questions is homicide by vehicle versus aggravated homicide by vehicle involves recklessness or DUI, is a felony and carries significant harsher penalties, up to 20 years imprisonment. And you're going to tell me that you can't make the case that this dude was driving recklessly when, Kate's mom had the walk dude going. She hit the button and everything. She did everything she was supposed to do. And it wasn't like a, hurricane or whiteout conditions there. And based on this dude's history, I have a hard time believing that this dude gives a shit about anybody and is just turning right and is driving recklessly. And if you look at his rap sheet, him not obeying traffic laws and driving in a way that's going to put other people in danger is a habit. So this is one of the problems that we're having here before we even get, like the prosecuting attorney in Sheridan, Wyoming is immediately goes for the misdemeanor, right? Because you want to win or whatever. These attorneys get into these weird places where things are not worth their time, or they just want the W, and they just want to move on with their day and with their life. So instead of seeking out justice, they seek out closure of the cases. They seek to move on, count it as a W, move on to something else that's going to get them in front of the cameras or make their career go better. So they had the option. I think they have the option to, increase what they're charging this dude with, and absolutely did not. And then beyond that are floating a plea deal that is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. And the person we're talking about here, you can see Sheridan County Prosecuting Attorney Diana Bennett. She has some problems in her history. She has a history of not prosecuting people aggressively, not protecting her constituents, not holding people just to the law. We're not asking you to be judge, jury, and execution. I'm not asking you to be Judge Dredd. I'm asking you just to be somebody that upholds the law and protects her constituents. And we're gonna talk about that too. Further down here, Johnson changes pleaded guilty of domestic battery for a previous crime here. December 19th, 2003, Johnson was charged with driving under the influence of alcohol. According to court documents, Johnson crashed his vehicle while under the influence on South Sheridan Avenue. Officers found empty White Claws, no claws when you're drinking, or no laws when you're drinking, claws apparently, and Twisted Tea alcoholic drinks in the vehicle. Now, this plays into exactly what we're talking about here. Earlier in the article, Diana Bennett set the unsecured bond, a $5,000 unsecured bond, and hit him with the misdemeanor because she said, and I quote, "There's no reason to believe this was alcohol related." Now, we're going to go into the history of Mr. David Johnson here, and we're just going to talk about his past offenses. He's already got a DUI. He's already got an alcohol. Everything in his history speaks to him being an alcoholic. And again, no shot to allegedly an alcoholic. I can't tell you what he does day to day. But all the information that we have on Mr. Johnson leads us to believe that he's got a serious problem with decision making. He does not manage his relationship with alcohol appropriately by all available court documents and information. And he also makes bad decisions about driving under the influence. And he's already been arrested for it multiple times.
Even though he's not under the influence, they have him for careless driving, failure to stop a stop sign, over 75 miles per hour, over 80 miles an hour. Like, it's just like, and he doesn't keep his auto insurance up to date. And these are like, if you took one of these, right? Like Aaron got caught doing, 85 miles an hour on I-215 in Vegas, which he would never drive that fast.
Every single day I drive that fast. But like it's always on 215.
But you take it into account, right? He has a DUI. He's always driving out of control and recklessly. He, sexual abuse of a minor. He beats his wife or whatever, the battery, the domestic abuse. It's all just, it all just kind of comes together and paints a picture where it's like, when you see all that, and these are all in Johnson County. This isn't, this dude is originally from Tampa. It's not like he has a rap sheet from Tampa that they, have to ask for, and it takes a time to get over there, and they don't know who this dude is. They know who this dude is. When he shows up in that courthouse, when he shows up in the county jail or whatever to spend his night, the drunk tank, all these other things, like the officer, I guarantee these officers know him by name. They're like, "What's up, David? Like, you're back, huh?
I can guarantee.
POS.
Yeah, exactly. One of those officers in Sheridan County is like, "David, is it you again?" Yeah. I guarantee those words have been said. I guarantee somebody knows this guy, and he's just like, here we go again with this guy. Because Sheridan ain't that big, folks. Like, you're a menace to your local community. I'm going to show you a picture of Mr. David Johnson here from his mugshot. Here's David Vincent Johnson. Obviously, he was born in Tampa. He was born in 91. So quick public school math, that makes him what, 40? No, 34.
30, yeah.
So 34. 6 foot, 225. It's not a good BMI. He's a little bit overweight. Offenses previously, we talked about the sexual abuse of a minor, 3rd degree, immodest, immoral, and indecent action under a 17-year-old victim, 17 and 14 years or younger. Now, listen, again, everybody gets to be their own man, and maybe people change. You don't hurt kids.
No.
This guy shouldn't be on the streets. He is a sexual predator that should not be on the streets of Sheridan. There is a long history. The next thing we're going to bring up here is we're going to bring up all the times that Mr. Johnson has been in court, and then we're going to start talking about the prosecuting attorney, Ms. Bennett. But look at this rap sheet. So these are the times that Mr. Johnson has appeared in court. Now, you'll notice if you look over here, it's 5 pages long. Mm-hmm. It's 5 pages long going back to 2015. 75 on an interstate. Battery, dismissed. Reckless endangering, dismissed. Flee to attempt or evade police, guilty. You got jail time for that. Interference with a police officer. Careless driving, again. Failure to stop at a stop sign, again. 75 on an interstate, again. 80 miles on an interstate, again. That's all between 2015 and 2017. That's 5 driving violations, interfering with police officers. Under 18, possession, use of tobacco, first offense, he was guilty in 2009. That wasn't him. That was, that was from earlier, a circuit court.
Yeah.
Auto insurance, nope. Vehicle registration, nope. Then we hit the sexual abuse of a minor. Valid driver's license, forfeiture, nope. DUI, first offense, was back in 2023. So obviously got caught, DUI, suspended sentence there. Interference with a peace officer, again. Domestic battery, again. Homicide by vehicle, that's the one that we're talking about here, 5/28/2025. Traffic control signal, again, same offense here. We get to the other stuff. Shoplifting. This guy is just a bad dude.
Stalking, all the things. Everything is in here.
All of it. And then finally, this is the crazy one that I finally look for, is like after all of this stuff, he finally got divorced. So he's married during all of this time that he was doing all of the terrible things. And then finally his wife was like, I'm out of here. Good job, Julie Marie Johnson. Way to file for divorce here. Trent, why do we let people like this go? Like, is it a culture thing in America? Why are we letting folks like this out?
I'm not sure. It's I know that in this area of the world, in Sheridan, they're kind of like a one of those little crossroads cities where you think like no crime, but there's things that happen that go through there. Like they're a stop on a way to somewhere else, and big things happen. But I think it's just this idea that this prosecuting attorney, I think, just has. But does she have bigger aspirations? Does she want just like a record of convictions over and over and over again? Is she scared to go to court, to jury trial, because she hasn't done it forever? She's been in her position for something like 12 years. As she's known as the person that, even with sexual cases, she'll allow people to plea below the minimums, plea down. So like there's like a minimum sentence, right, that you get for certain crimes, and she will allow these people to plea below the minimums and get it off of her docket. I think she's just not a great person, if I'm honest, and lazy. I don't know how else to explain it. You know, you could bring in the political aspect of it, which I'm fairly sure I know which way she leans politically, and it's not the same way that I lean, obviously. I'm not sure. We talk a lot about the criminal justice system, and everything that we're hearing from Sheridan is the sheriff's department, the cops, everybody wants to see this dude go away forever. The entire city wants this dude to go away, and it's just this prosecuting attorney and the judge that used to be there. Apparently, there's a new judge that seems okay, but like it doesn't take that many bad apples to sit in that courtroom to ruin people's lives. And that's the end state of all of this stuff. It's like you can look at this and be like, okay, well, they're not doing their job, and this dude's out running around, and you know, this lady married him and she made mistakes, and now he's ruining their children's lives, and like, that doesn't affect me at all. But he's also driving through town, not paying attention, doing what he does, driving recklessly. I said it on purpose because it should be a felony, and killing people. Like, that's what happened.
Yeah. Yep. So Diana Bennett, so she has a history of leniency from her position. So one of the strongest pieces of evidence, there's a claim that Bennett allows criminals to go free, that just, it's floating around. Like, she's known as somebody that does it. So the biggest one, Bighorn Mountains in August of 2021, there was a shooting case. Leonard Laszlo was fatally shot. So despite the shooter's inability to properly provide a clear explanation for using deadly force. And by the way, Bennett, even initially, she was like, I don't even know if this is, I don't know if this is a justified shoot. She was on record as saying that. Bennett declined to prosecute. So Mr. Laszlo was fatally shot and killed by a guy. Now, I don't know the backstory of this one. I can just tell you what the prosecutorial actions look like on this one. So the guy couldn't actually say why it was a good shoot. So Bennett declined to prosecute entirely, citing self-defense based on consistent eyewitness statements and a lack of contradictory evidence. Critics could argue that her hesitation to charge, even after expressing personal doubts of the shooter's justification, reflects a tendency to err on the side of leniency rather than pursuing justice for the deceased. This was in 2021. This case, which Bennett herself described as one she agonized over in her 22 years as a prosecutor, can be seen as an example of prioritizing legal caution over aggressive prosecution and allowing a questionable act to go unpunished.
Here's the thing. It's not her job to decide that. Like, if you have questions as the prosecuting attorney, that's why we have the jury system. That's why you bring in people and you present the evidence. That's why you take the time to go through the system, because she doesn't get to decide, right? She doesn't decide if this dude is guilty or not. She doesn't decide if this dude did the right thing or you know, David Johnson did the right thing. But her refusal to even run it through the process, get to a trial so everything can be presented, and then the peers, the people from the community, can make the decision, which is their right and duty. That's the problem, is she won't even go there.
Well, I wish it wasn't a pattern, Trent, but it totally is. So during the COVID, she had a huge backlog, right? So COVID was a wacky time. There was a huge backlog. She essentially upheld the dismissal of hundreds of cases, citing the Sixth Amendment. Basically, the Sixth Amendment is your speedy trial, right? You get a jury and you get a speedy trial. So during COVID, she had a huge backlog. She wasn't using video arraignments. She was using in-person arraignments. And she basically, and now this is my assumption here, or my allegation, I suppose, is that she looked at all these cases and she was like, well, it's past the 100. There's a 180-day limit in Wyoming for when you're supposed to be able to get to your trial. Because of COVID and because of all the things that were going on at that time. She was like, well, I can't get these people in 180 days. So I'm just going to let all these courses go dismissed, like hundreds of dismissals. The reliance on video and audio technology to prevent backlogs, except in jury trials, might be seen as insufficient to ensure the justice was served promptly, particularly in serious criminal cases. This wasn't just like traffic violations. This is everybody that came up for a court date in the COVID-19 pandemic, like 2020 through 2023. She basically was just like, no, can't get you to a speedy trial. We're going to dismiss this. Now, is that laziness? Is that maliciousness? Is that using an emergency? I use emergency in the loosest of terms here, in order to support you getting to go after what looks to be a history of you not wanting to prosecute people in the state of Wyoming? Is it using that to your benefit to get after a personal narrative? I mean, maybe it's just rank incompetence. Maybe she just is bad at logistics and scheduling. Maybe she doesn't have a staff of people that can schedule people for video arraignments to get these things done. Who knows? But the facts of the matter are there were hundreds of people, to include violent criminal offenses, that she just let go. She was just like, no, we're not even going to bring them to court because it's been too long. And she cited the 6th Amendment and 180-day limit in Wyoming to essentially let criminals just roam free. Sorry, there's a flu that isn't going to kill you if you're under 65 and you're not fat. So you get away with this one.
Well, and other places found a way to make it happen. You know, it's she acts like she's a victim of the circumstances. You can do the video stuff. You can do even if you were scared of the flu. There's ways to make it happen. I think one of the problems here though too is I don't want to let Sheridan off the hook. So you have this person that's been there for 22 years. You know, she from what I've heard, she runs unopposed every time because she is an elected official, the attorney for the county and prosecuting attorney for Sheridan, Wyoming. Hey, folks in Sheridan, I know that y'all just want to live your happy, peaceful lives in your idyllic town and be happy. But if you want stuff to change, someone's going to have to run against this lady. Someone's going to have to step up and do something about it. Because this is the type of stuff that happens when everybody's like, oh, I'm not a politician. I'm not an attorney. I don't want to do that. And then you have this person that has this position of authority that runs unopposed, that can do whatever they want. And they're probably more concerned about, like I said, like what their stats look like. And that's what comes down to is that her stats look good, because if you don't prosecute things, you don't have the chance of losing. And then when you come up for re-election, assuming someone ever did run against her, she can be like, well, here's my record, right? Like I'm 8,026 to 6, right? And it's a ridiculous record or whatever it is, because she doesn't lose because she doesn't do her job.
Yeah.
So it's like voting present in Congress.
Well, there was another high profile case that she prosecuted over. Now this one, I don't know how you guys feel about the death penalty. There are certain cases that I feel 100% warrant the death penalty, right? So in March 29 of 2020, 55-year-old Dana Bertusk, I think, murdered Angelina Bertusk, Serena Fisher, and Blackhawk Fisher. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. It's got a whole bunch of vowels and consonants in it. You know how I feel about those two things. They basically, murdered at a mobile home in Bighorn, immediately confessed to it, premeditated murder of one of his family members and 2 other people that were associated in the trailer. She refused to pursue the death penalty. Now, the guy ended up getting like 3 consecutive life sentences, so he got 135 years for triple murder. But it just, again, shows her constitution for prosecuting these crimes to the full extent of the law.
Yep.
Like, this is one of those that deserves the death penalty. Premeditated murder of 3 defenseless people. He murdered them execution style in Bighorn. And she just was like, no, I'm not going to pursue the death penalty. Like, let the jury decide, but put the death penalty on the table. That's how our court system is supposed to work. You prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. And she just refused to do so in this case. One of the most clear-cut death penalty cases that Montana has probably ever seen. And she just refuses to go after the guy. Now, granted, he's in jail for the rest of his life, no possibility of parole. Great, problem solved, problem staying solved. Unless you're the taxpayer that now has to fund this guy through the rest of his life so he can get his college degree and tell me about how he found Jesus and make his little art projects that he sells on Etsy so he can bump his commissary up for the rest of his natural life. Hopefully it isn't that long. The guy was 55 in 2020, so it puts him around 60 now. I can't imagine prison time is doing well for his health. However, this is one of the most clear-cut death penalty cases, and it enraged the community. Like, this, triple homicides don't really happen in Bighorn, Montana a whole lot. And once again, we've got this prosecutor that just refuses to step up. Like Diana Bennett, once again, was just like, listen, I'm not going to pursue the death penalty here. Now, did she think that she couldn't get the death penalty and that was going to cause her problems for her prosecutorial record? Were there other factors at fault here? I don't know. But when you start connecting them to all of the things that she's done in her past, you're like, well, that's another example of you deciding not to prosecute somebody to the fullest extent of the law, which is your job as an elected official and a prosecutor. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to put these people in jail, or sometimes, and it's a squishy subject, right? Like, I am a death penalty guy. You should have to pay with your life for things that you do. And this case, at least in my opinion, fits into it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no fan of a lot of these attorneys out here in the United States. There's the justice system is broken in a lot of ways, where people over prosecute for a lot of things and make a lot of mistakes. But man, under prosecuting is just as bad. And my guess is she wouldn't do that because her friends would have been upset about it. Like, which way she leans. She's probably a super liberal, doesn't believe in the death penalty, but she's making these decisions on her own based on her own opinions and rather than the law and the law that is available in the place where she was. She's supposed to be doing her job without her personal opinion getting too involved, right? Like, she's supposed to interpret the law, prosecute, and make these decisions. But she doesn't want to go to her parties and have people give her a hard time because she's going after the death penalty, which is a terrible thing, right? But you're not seeking justice if you're not doing that. For everybody that just a death penalty thing, the death penalty doesn't have to be, it's not about revenge. If it was, like, you can never do to someone else what they've done to somebody else, right? Like, it just doesn't, you can't quantify, horror and torture and all those things sufficiently to make this happen. The reason we have the death penalty is to remove that person from the gene pool and provide justice, and we don't have to deal with that anymore. It's not a revenge thing. And so I think a lot of people misunderstand the death penalty, but like, not even pursuing it is a huge foul. And it's just another one of those things. It's like, is it laziness? Is it political ideology? I don't know what it is. Does she actually have like a bone to pick with the community that she lives in? Like, does she think she's better than everybody else? Does she think everybody else is a bunch of hicks and she knows better than they do because she went to law school and she's been an attorney for a long time? She holds this position over them in that community. It's kind of seems that way.
Well, her position on drugs would play that out completely. So Bennett's expressed a strong support for Sheridan County's drug court program, describing it as, quote, one of the most effective programs that we have, end quote, for addressing substance-related crimes. Now, listen, I know that you want to rehabilitate people, and I know that you want to get people back on the right track, but she actually utilized this program so much. So people that had drug-related offenses, and again, these are violent criminals. It's not just some kid that was smoking weed and she put him in a drug diversion program. It was people on meth and coke, shooting people and getting in car accidents and smoking crack and robbing people and mugging people, and in one case, stabbing people. And she just sent all of these people to a drug diversion program. The program's temporary halt in admissions in October 2021 was actually due to high demand. She put so many people, if it had drugs attached to your case, she put people in this divergence program because of her ideological belief that the program was one of the best that they had for rehabilitating violent criminals, as opposed to making them pay the penalty for the crimes that they did while under the influence of drugs. She put so many people in the program, they had to shut it down. They had to not admit people. So this is in 2021. She'd only been in office for a year. She diverted so many of those cases because, again, it doesn't go on her prosecutorial record. What it does is it puts people into this other program to be like, oh, let me help these violent drug addicted criminals out by getting them off the drugs, and then poof, they won't be criminals anymore. I don't understand that reasoning as a prosecutor. Like, imagine looking at a stabbing. Imagine somebody that's high on crack and stabbed one of their friends over a crack dispute, and your initial reaction here is, well, the violence isn't the problem, it's the crack. Let's go ahead and put them into a drug. And by the way that those court cases work is if you complete the divergence program, then you're absolved of your the other charges. It's not like it's not like you get off crack and then you go back to court for the fact that you stabbed somebody. That's not what happens in these. And she knows that extremely well. That's why she puts people in these divergent programs. I just don't understand it.
And I said, yeah. And it hides the crime from the community in a certain way because they don't get that jury summons to go to court to make these decisions, right? Imagine you got a jury summons like every 6 months in Sheridan, Wyoming. You'd be like, what is happening here where they need me to go sit on a jury again because of these things that are, all these crimes that are happening in our community, like in small town Wyoming, like you keep getting jury summons over and over and over again because like that should be how it is. And that kind of gives you a pulse as a citizen of where things are going and how things are going. but like she's just making this decision for them, and that's not her job. And I keep repeating myself a little bit, but it's like you're on the wrong side of the system. You're making these decisions for people. You are bypassing the law in order to fulfill your political or social intent for these people, and you're applying all this like your personal ideology onto these people that are stabbing people and shooting people and committing these crimes. And instead of giving the community the opportunity to take these people off the streets and take ownership of it, you're just making your own decisions because you know better than everybody else, because I don't know, you went to college. Crap.
And just like everything with public officials, there's probably a twofold thing. It's probably an ideology. So Bennett has emphasized her ethical duty not to charge individuals without sufficient evidence for conviction, as seen in the 2021 shooting case. While this may align with prosecutorial standards, people argue that her strict adherence to this principle results in too many cases being dropped or not pursued, particularly when evidence is ambiguous. Some may say that this is a cautious approach, but when you put it in the context of everything else that Diana Bennett has done, this speaks to the fact that she's using the system to further her political ideology or her personal ideology. When you're like, well, I'm not going to prosecute this crime because there's not sufficient evidence, it doesn't meet the evidence that I need to prosecute this crime, you're making a singular decision on behalf of the constituents, which is who you serve as a public servant. You are a public prosecutor. You are not here to make unilateral decisions about what evidence is or isn't sufficient enough for you to bring a case. That is for a jury of the peers to decide. That's how our system's set up. I'm reading a very interesting book on the Bill of Rights where they put it in context of how they wrote these things. Jury trials appear in 3 separate amendments in the Bill of Rights, 3 separate times. I want to say it's like, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and the 8th, or the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th. All 3 times, the founders thought it was so important to get in front of a jury because the system that they came from was unelected public officials that were there without recourse, that were able to do insane things. It's the 5th, the 6th, and the 8th. I'm sorry, because that handles jury trials and cruel and unusual punishment. In those 3 amendments, our founders thought it was so important to get in front of a jury to counteract this exact thing that we're seeing. What she'll do is she'll be like, well, there isn't sufficient enough evidence, and I don't think that we should bring that before people. That is exactly what the founders wanted to counteract with having a jury trial, having people from your community show up and say, was this legal? Was it not legal? And then make the decision as part of we the people. That's why jury trials are so important. Her not even prosecuting these cases because she feels like there's not enough evidence, that's in direct refutation of the jury trial standard that we set up in the 4th, the 5th, and the 8th Amendments. It's unconstitutional, and it's obviously on its face not what's best for the community. When you put that, I said that there was 2 things, right? There was somebody that's trying to further their political ideology. When you take away accountability, and Trent mentioned it before, she ran unopposed for re-election in 2020, and then her announcement for a re-election in 2022, she also ran unopposed. She's been unopposed this entire time. So when you add in just a little sprinkling of no accountability, there's nobody challenging her for this position. She's ran unopposed. She knows that she's going to be in power. When you put those 2 things together, you get a recipe for somebody that's absolutely going to undermine the community. And that's what we saw with David Johnson and the Gladdin case, the Fitzsimmons case. It plays completely into her entire body of work that we've just put out there. She doesn't want to prosecute people. She said that she didn't think that this was alcohol related. How did you make that case? How did you say that with the information that you've had beforehand? How could you possibly look at a murder? Somebody lost their life. And you look at this and you're like, nope, $5,000 unsecured bond. We're going to put you on a plea deal with your record behind you. We showed you the entire court record of this gentleman. He should not be behind the wheel of a car. I don't even know if he had a license at this point. I believe he didn't even have a license, right? Because didn't he forfeit his license in like 2013?
I mean, with all the it's amazing that they let him do anything. I don't know where his license was and all that other stuff, but I don't know. It's insane to me. And I don't, with the evidence thing, like, is it evidence or competence too? Like, when you get used to it. When was the last time she went to a jury trial and she won?
Right. Yeah, that'd be super interesting to look at. I would love that. Listen, folks, we're about that sunlight. We're about transparency. I think we laid it out exactly, what this case is. Yes, we're connected to it. Yes, it's our friends. Yes, we're biased. But two things could be true at the same time. This could be our friend and we could be upset by it because we're personally connected to it. And it could be an egregious lack of justice and lack of prosecution for somebody that obviously deserves it. So we're going to give you a little call to action here. I'm going to tell you exactly how to contact these people. You don't have to be a constituent. You don't have to be somebody that lives in Montana. You just have to be somebody that cares. So the Sheridan County and Prosecuting Attorney's Office, it's located in Brook Street, on Brook Street in Sheridan. Here's the phone number. The phone number is 307-674-2580. Once again, that phone number to the Sheridan County and Prosecuting Attorney's Office is 307-674-2580. Now, what you could do, I'll give you the email too. So you can contact the Prosecuting Attorney's Office. I will show it up here how to do that. Let's go here and here. Go ahead, Trent.
They also have a fax number.
They do have a fax
which
number.
Could be.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
You can go here. Here's the screen share. The prosecuting attorney. Basically, you can find the email, and you can find the sex registry, which David Johnson is on because he's there. You can basically email or call these folks by going to that website, and you can say, of course, as nicely as you possibly can, that you disagree with her handling of this case and that you want to see more charges for Mr. David Johnson. That you can say that somebody lost their life over it and that you don't think that he should be able to just be set free on an unsecured $5,000 bond with his backstory here. You can actually get involved. If you want to change stuff, you can be the one that actually calls this place, 307-674-2580, or emails them via the official email provided on that website, the County and Prosecuting Attorney's website. And you can 100% call and tell these people, or email these people and tell them that you disagree with the prosecuting attorney and how she goes about this.
Yeah, I think the current plan was something like to give him 3 months house arrest, and that was it.
For murder.
That was the plea. Yeah. And folks, if you don't know what to say, if you don't want to like call and be like all like angry or confrontational, email them a link of this podcast and just ask them for comment.
Yeah.
Like, what do you guys think about this?
And
These
we will
guys
do
are
the
out here
same.
talking about it. Yeah.
We will do the same. We will email this. We'll make sure that everybody has it. We are not asking you to do something that we're not going to do. You'd better believe that I'm going to call and talk to these people. You'd better believe that they're going to get this episode as soon as it comes out. I'm going to ask them for content. And you'd also better believe that the old Sheridan Press, where all of these news stories drop, they're going to get a call and they're going to get a request from me and from Trent to say, hey, what are you guys doing about this? Because we're not going to stop talking about it. And then we'll put those people on record and we'll bring them out and they can talk about it. We can bring somebody from Sheridan. If you live in Sheridan and you want to come on and you want to talk about the impacts that this guy has had at the community or the egregious actions, I can't think of a better word than prosecuting attorney Diana Bennett, you let me know and you can come on and you can talk about it. And maybe we'll have, obviously Nate and Kate aren't in a great space right now. We'll bring them on too, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. And David Johnson, if you would decide to skip bail and flee on back to Tampa, back to home, just let us know.
Just holler at me. I got a ride for you, homie. I'm here in the West. I'll pick you up.
There's another there are a few ways to solve these types of problems, and I'm not above it.
I would never advocate for violence, but violence is a solution. Okay. It may not be the best solution, but it actually is a solution to every problem in your life. So you should just consider that.
Put it out there. Yeah. And the last thing is that we are connected to this one. There are lots of things that are going wrong everywhere all at once, right? Like if you read the world news, like, and you want to contribute money and help everybody in the world all at once. We talk about this a lot. You can't help everyone, but this falls under our sphere of influence. This is something that we care deeply about. And it's not that we don't care about every other, misalignment of justice in the country. We do. Just like
yes,
everybody
we want
else.
the Epstein list, everybody. We got it. But two things can be true at the same time, and you can do things that actually impact people that you know first. That's all we're saying.
We're messing with our friends. So this is what's going to happen. We're going to put this out. Everybody's going to call. Everybody's going to email. We're going to get some comments from them. We're going to bring on anybody that wants to talk about it. And we're going to turn up the heat as high as we can based on our sphere of influence here on the podcast. And if there's ever one thing that you took out of this podcast and you decide to action on, this is the thing. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, feels like a good place to end. Sunlight's the best disinfectant. Time to hold these public servants accountable, folks. That's why we're here. God bless America. Have a good one.